Well, today I'm going to show you how to do the wrong thing the right way. Hey, what's up YouTube? Down the Fix It Man. Got another quick video here for you. I'm going to show you how to change your front brake pads on a 2010 Jeep Wrangler. Now in this case, I'm just going to be replacing the pads. I did replace the rotors, pads, and calipers in this vehicle almost 3 years ago, and you can see that the pad material is completely worn down and it needs brakes again, but the owner has asked me to only replace the pads this time. Now a lot of people say this is just a pad slap, or that's definitely the wrong way to do things, and you need to have these replaced or even machined or turned. So if I'm doing rotors, I'm usually just going to be replacing them rather than take the time to take them off, drop them off, have them machined, and wait for them to be done, and then go back, pick them up, and put it back on. It's a lot less time and effort to just replace the rotors, but in this case, we're not even going to do that. I'm just going to put pads on, or do a pad slap, as they say, but I am going to use these right here. This is the Brake Best Select Pro. The reason I'm using these pads is they do have this break-in coating on them. You see how the pad surface is blue? I'll show you here in a minute when I get this open, but that's designed to score up or scuff up the rotor surface so that it has a nicer friction material for the pads once they are broken in. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and I'll show you how quickly and easily you can swap out these pads. Now it does help to turn the wheel so that the caliper is outward a little bit, but the first thing I'm going to do is grab a little pry bar and push this caliper piston back in, which will give us room for the new thicker pad material. Now before we do that, it is important that you pop the hood and take a look at the master cylinder and make sure that that fluid level is low enough so that it's not going to overflow and make a big mess when we push that caliper back in. A lot of people also will just loosen or break open this caliper bleeder screw and expel the old fluid. I don't usually mess with the bleeder screws unless I absolutely have to, or if we changed out the caliper. Anytime you take that off, especially if you live in a rusty area, you do risk breaking that, but you also are going to have to bleed the brakes potentially once you're done. The way that I'm doing it, I'm not going to have to bleed the brakes because I'm not opening up this bleeder screw, not allowing any air or bubbles to enter into the brake system. So let's go up top, take a quick look, and make sure that there's enough room for this fluid and it's not going to overflow. If we need to, we can remove some of that fluid. All right, so here's our master cylinder, and you can see that the reservoir is pretty full. So I'm going to have to take this lid off and take out some of the old fluid. This is a little fluid extractor, and I've got a little tray to catch the old fluid here. And all we need to do is just put that in and suck out some of that old fluid. Now, normally you don't need to do this step, especially if no one has been topping the fluid off in between brake pad changes, but as the pads wear down, sometimes people will top off this fluid. I think we got enough out there. I'm just going to set this lid on the top here. And now let's go down and push that caliper piston back in now that we know we're not going to overflow. All right, now there's lots of ways to push this caliper piston back in. I like to use this pry bar method because it seems to be the easiest or quickest. You can take the caliper off and use a little caliper wind back tool, or even a C-clamp is fine. Now all I'm doing is putting this in here, wedging it up against the body of the caliper and inside the rotor here, and I'm just going to pull that steadily and slowly towards myself. And you'll see that that will actually push this caliper piston back in. You see it's already giving us a little bit of room there. Now I'm just shifting it over here on the inside. Let's just kind of keep pushing until we get it all the way pushed in. That looks good. All right, now we can loosen and remove these caliper slide pin bolts, and these are a 13 millimeter, or you can use a 1/2 inch here as well. Just gonna break them loose. Now you see, as I try to loosen this, that slide pin is just spinning because it's nicely lubed up from last time I did this, but that hex shape on there allows you to grab an open-end wrench. Usually a much thinner than normal open-end wrench works best, and I've got these really thin profile wrenches from Capri Tools. I'm just going to put that on there, and that's going to hold our slide pin steady while we loosen this. I'm just going to zip these out real quick like that. And then I'm going to pull off the caliper. Now, we've got these nice long brake lines on here, but I'm going to use one of these caliper hooks to hook the caliper up here out of the way. I'm just going to hook it up here on the coil spring. All right, now we can pop out the old brake pads. Now you see this little noisemaker or little squealer right here on the edge of the pad. The face of that is still dull or somewhat rusty, meaning it was not scraping the rotor just yet, but we were pretty close. You can see we have another little noisemaker, little squealer here on this one. And this also, as I mentioned, has this blue friction material. This stuff will come off the pad when it's roughing up these rotors, and then you'll have a nicer friction material on the rotor and the new pad. But we're also going to change out the hardware. It comes with this coated hardware, which is all included. So we're going to replace that as well. And that's really easy to do. Just get a little flathead screwdriver and pop these out. I'm just going to take a little wire brush and clean up the area where those little retainer clips go so that they have a nice clean surface in there. Now you can also use a little wire brush or wire wheel on a drill. If you are going to use something like this, make sure you wear some safety glasses. That definitely does a better job of cleaning those little recesses. Now I do like to use some of this caliper grease underneath those clips, more as a protectant rather than a lubricant. Just got to be real careful that we don't get any on the rotor or on the surface of the rotor. If you do, just wipe it off. Especially in the real rusty areas, what happens is the rust will build up underneath those clips and it will cause the pads to bind. All right, and then we can just put in the new clips. They just snap right in place. There we go. All right, and then we can put our new pads in. Just remember, don't touch the surface here with any grease or anything, but just kind of line those up, a little bit of an angle, and press them in. And remember this one here with the squealer, it goes down on the inside pad, like that. Now I'm also going to pull out these slide pins and clean and re-grease them. Just going to take that out, going to wipe it off. You don't necessarily have to take off this caliper bracket and clean that out completely, but I just like to wipe off as much as I can. And then we'll put some new caliper grease on here. This is silicone based. This is Versachem synthetic, works pretty well. And as you push that in, sometimes you need to squeeze that boot, burp out any of the air in there. We'll do the same with the top one here. Just wipe that off. Sometimes I'll pop them back in like this just to clean out any more excess dirty grease, but this one really wasn't too bad. Pop this one back in as well. All right, that looks good. Now I do like to put a little bit of this silicone ceramic extreme on the back of the shim. Now it doesn't take much of this stuff, but just that real thin layer on there seems to dampen some of the vibrations that cause the brake noise or squeal. So even though this is a really nice rubberized coated shim, I still like to put a little bit of that on because it does help keep these quiet. All right, then we can grab our caliper here, take the hook off, and just carefully position that over the new pads. Sometimes you have to pull in a little bit on those slide pins, but that's ready to go. All right, and then these two little bolts that go into the caliper slide pins and hold the caliper in place, I'm just gonna put a little bit of this blue thread locker on them. Looks like they still have a little bit of remnants of the old blue thread locker, but this will help hold them in place or prevent them from backing out. Just get those started. Just lift up a little bit on the caliper to line them up. Yeah, you see that slide pin is just spinning and sliding. So let's just get these snug and then we will torque them to spec. There we go. All right, and then we're gonna torque these to 26 foot-pounds. Now before we drive off, you do need to go in the vehicle, step down on the brake pedal several times until it feels firm, and what that's going to do is push this caliper piston back out, pressing those pads up against the rotor where they need to be. And don't forget to double check your master cylinder fluid level once you're done. Make sure that that's all topped off where it needs to be and that the cap is back on tight. Now this is my first time using these Brake Best Select Pros. I've been pretty impressed with the Import Direct, which is a similar surface except that it's orange in color, but the Brake Best Select Pro looks like it's the same type of material that is somewhat abrasive and is designed to rough up the surface of the rotor, or just kind of takes off that glazed or polished finish on there that we don't want because we want a better friction material for stopping. But this is my first time trying the Brake Best Select Pro. I'll update the video if I have any issues, but I'm so far pretty impressed, and I think these are going to work great. Now a lot of the older videos that I did, I was just doing some pads, and nowadays I do mostly pads and rotors. And if you don't do pads and rotors, people say, oh, that's the wrong way to do it, that's a pad slap and you need to do this and you're not doing anything right at all. And that's fine. You know, you guys can absolutely do it the way you want it. I just hope that this video is somewhat helpful or gives you a little bit of an idea on how to swap out your brake pads. You know, if you're new to this, this is just one way that you can get this job done. A lot of customers do ask for just pads, and you know, depending on the situation, if they're not experiencing any shimming or warped rotors or anything like that, you know, I will do just the pads for them. So I just don't always film those because everybody is so critical on YouTube, and you know, that's just kind of the way it goes. But that's pretty much it. I hope you liked the video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you don't mind. That does help me out. And of course, I'll get a link in the description where you can pick up some of the same parts and tools as well. And of course, you can get these Brake Best Select Pros down at your local O'Reilly. If you are going to do the rotors and or the caliper as well, I do have a video on that, and I'll get a link to that in the description for you too. Thanks so much for watching, and good luck.